Namaste, everyone. Welcome to today's broadcast, a continuation of the reading of Sad-Vidya by Sri Ramana Maharishi on the Advaita channel. All of this is possible by the grace of Satguru Sri Mujiji and the light of Sri Anantaji. We will be reading a book, Sad-Vidya, Truth Revealed by Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. And before beginning, I'd like to invoke His grace, which is everywhere. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Satguru Sri Muji Ji ki jai, Sri Ananta Ji ki jai. For those who are on YouTube, I'm not too comfortable at the moment flipping between back and forth if there's anyone on YouTube between the main screen and the YouTube screen. So I may be quite slow in responding back to you if you have any writings, but please know that you're always, I'm very grateful for you that you are here, and very grateful to be in your company. So let's begin. Truth Revealed. I call this part 3 because the first 2 parts were actually the summary of the main piece and of the addendum, the add-on to it. And so basically now we have finished. The first 2 parts were basically the summary of the main Truth Revealed and the summary of the addendum. And now we're going into the actual teachings, the full form of Truth Revealed in this recording. Truth Revealed. Invocatory. Without the reality existing, can there be a knowledge of existence? Free from all thoughts, that reality abides in the heart, the source of all thoughts. It is therefore called the heart. How then to contemplate it? To be as it is in the heart is its contemplation. Those for whom there is the intense fear of death seek only the feet of the Lord as their refuge, who has neither death nor birth. Dead to themselves and their possessions, can the thought of death occur to them again? Deathless they are. One, because we perceive the world, acceptance of a unique first principle possessing diverse powers would surely be admitted by all. Pictures of name and form, the seer, the supporting screen, and the revealing light, all these are verily He. 2. All religions postulate the 3 fundamentals, the world, the soul, and God. The one reality alone manifests itself as the 3. To say the 3 are indeed 3 is only while the ego lasts. Therefore, to inhere in one's own being, where the I, the ego is dead, is the perfect state. 3. In quotations, the world is real. No, it is mere illusory appearance. The world is conscious. No. The world is happiness. No. The previous 3 statements were actually showing an argument taking place, saying the world is real. No. No, it is mere illusory appearance. Then the second statement, the world is conscious. No. The world is happiness. No. These 3 are a play on Sat, Chit, Ananda. Real, reality, consciousness, bliss. Thus, to speak of what avail is it? To argue in such a way, what benefit does it make? That state is agreeable to all, wherein one, having given up the objective outlook, knows his self and loses all notions of unity and duality, of oneself and the ego. 4. If oneself be with form, the world and God too will figure accordingly. If one be formless, Who is it that sees those forms and how? Without the eye, can there be the seen? The eye in this case is talking about the physical eyes. Without the eye, can there be the seen? Verily, oneself is the eye, and that too, the eye boundless. If oneself be with form, the world and God too will figure accordingly. Whatever you take yourself to be, you will relate with everything else from that perspective. If you relate to yourself as a person, you will be seeing people. So the key rests in identification. And the key out of it is to realize what you really are, so that the identification with what is phenomenal becomes less. 5. The body is a form of the fivefold sheath. Therefore, all the 5 sheaths are implied in the term body. Apart from the body, does the world exist? Are there persons who have seen the world without the body? 6. The world is nothing more than an embodiment of the objects perceived by the 5 sense organs. Since through these 5 sense organs, a single mind perceives the world is nothing but the mind. Apart from the mind, is there a world? 7. Although the world and the knowledge thereof rise and set together, it is by knowledge alone that the world is made apparent. Although the world and the knowledge thereof rise and set together, it is by knowledge alone that the world is made apparent. That perfection wherein the world and knowledge thereof rise and set, and which shines without rising and setting, is alone the reality. That perfection wherein the world and knowledge thereof rise and set, and which shines without rising and setting, is alone the reality. 8. Under whatever name and form one may worship the absolute reality, it would only be a means for realizing that perfect being without name and form. That alone is true realization, wherein one knows one's true being in relation to that reality and realizes one's identity with it by being absorbed into it. 9. The dyads and triads never exist without the support of some one thing. Searching as to what that one reality is, if one sees into oneself, they fall away. They that see this are the seers of wisdom. Never are they perplexed. 10. Knowledge does not exist without ignorance. Ignorance does not exist without knowledge. That knowledge alone is true knowledge, wherein one knows the self through inquiry as to whom pertains knowledge and ignorance. 11. Is it not rather ignorance to know all else without knowing oneself, the knower? On knowing oneself, the substratum of knowledge and ignorance perish. Gurus have always been teaching us. Sri Muji has always been pointing to this. Sri Anantaji always points to this. All the teachers point to this. That we always look outward. We're always looking outward at objects. We're always looking in the direction of already being engaged with the mind, rather than taking the position of, rather than realizing your actual position as simply presence, where no matter what arises or does not arise, you are simply the consciousness in which the things that arise or do not arise happen. You're simply the consciousness in which thoughts come and go. But if you don't if you're not aware of your actual position as that, you will be thinking already. Means you're already too late. You're already on the thought bus, and you'll be following what the thoughts say about this or that, or about the world, or about the situation, or about anything. But when you realize, when you come back to your actual position, when you simply come back and be in the presence, in I am, then you're in a position prior to thoughts, where thoughts become something either to engage with or not, to be left alone as it is, but it doesn't touch you. So when you realize that position, when you are aware of the knower of knowledge and ignorance, you see, and not getting mingled up with what knowledge is telling you, with the accumulation of knowledge, or with identifying yourself with being ignorant. You are simply that space in which knowledge and ignorance come and go. So on knowing oneself, the substratum of knowledge and ignorance, because oneself is the substratum in which all arises. Knowledge is a concept. Ignorance is a concept. That concept is being held up by this presence, by the engagement with, if this presence was not there, none of this would be there. If this presence was not there, there would be no ignorance, this is no knowledge. See, knowledge and ignorance happens only after presence is already there. Something is there to view knowledge and ignorance, and not engage with knowledge and ignorance, but simply to remain as the presence, which is what you already are. You are the substratum on which knowledge and ignorance persists, and without your attention, without you, there is no knowledge, no ignorance. They're simply being. So on knowing oneself, which is a substratum of knowledge and ignorance perish. 12. That alone is knowledge, which is neither knowledge nor nescience. What is known is not true knowledge, since the self shines with nothing else to know or to make known. It alone is knowledge. No void, it is. It alone is knowledge, not knowledge of something. Being is knowing, knowing itself. Everything else is a concept arising on it. Being is itself knowledge. 13. The self, which is knowledge, is alone the reality. Knowledge of diversity is but false knowledge. Knowledge of diversity is but false knowledge. This false knowledge, which is but ignorance, does not exist apart from the self, which is knowledge reality. Ornaments in their variety are unreal. Do they exist without gold, the substance? See? Even false knowledge, the foundation of knowing something, what he calls false knowledge is that which is not the reality, is not knowing the self itself, but knowing of objects. Knowing of objects is only possible if presence is there. Knowing of objects is only possible if the light of consciousness is there. The light of consciousness is not there, there is no one to do any kind of knowing. There is nothing to know. So, apart from this light of consciousness, which you are, does anything exist? Can a gold bangle exist without the gold? You see, the essence of which it is made out of. You call the world, but without consciousness, without the light of consciousness to see, to even, without presence, is the world even there? Can the world even be perceived? What is the world? In deep sleep, do you perceive the world? Where has the world gone? You know, where's your body? Where's your heartbeat? Where's the world? Where are your problems? Where are your worries? Where is your family? Where is everything? Where are you? in deep sleep. Without this presence, the world is not there. Without this presence, there's nothing. 14. If the first person I exists, then the second person, you, and the third person, he or she, will exist. That alone is one's natural state, the absolute being, wherein I perishes on inquiry into its nature, and with it also perish you and he or she. If I exists, others exist. When inquiry done into the I is done, I as an object, I as an entity, I as a person, when that is looked into and simply presence is here, but no one is found. I think Ajay Shanti was, there's a quote of Ajay Shanti that says something along the lines of looking within and not finding anything is the finding. So when you look within and you can't find yourself, then you question who's it that's looking within and what is within. Everything becomes cleared up very fast, like that. So when it's found that there's no one here, no separate entity here, when the I vanishes, the you vanishes, the object vanishes, not physically, but the relationship with it suddenly changes because what you have identified yourself as changes. See, you identify yourself as a father, the way you behave is going to be very different. You identify yourself as a son, uh, then the way you behave is going to be very different. You identify yourself in a certain context as a businessman, the way you behave is going to be very different. What you identify yourself with, which are simply concepts and beliefs, will affect the relationship that you have with the so-called world that is there from your presence. But when you look at what you really are prior to the identification, and you see that there is nothing here, and you're simply resting as yourself. When you're simply resting as yourself, then everything comes and goes, and there's no engagement with what comes and goes, and you don't even label something as anything if you're simply resting as being there. And even if labeling happens, that's just simply another activity that is seen, but it's not something that is being engaged with and creating more identification and more sense of stuckness. But even if the sense of stuckness is there and you are stable in realizing what you are, then the sense of stuckness is simply an appearance. You see, sense of stuckness is stuck until it's not stuck anymore. That's it. 15. Only with reference to the present can the past and the future exist. They too, while current, are but the present. Trying to determine the nature of the past and the future, ignoring the present, is just like trying enumeration without the unit one. If you're not here in this present moment, how can you talk about the past? And if you're not here right now in the present moment, how can you talk about the future? All talk of past and the future is done in the only moment there is, which is in this very moment. So if this present moment was not there, past would not be there. Future would not be there. Where is past and future in deep sleep? See, I will constantly use the example of deep sleep because that's when the I is even absent. The sense of the being is also absent. And when that's there, then where's the thinking of the past and the past and the future that pertains to who? Does being think of a past or future? Past and future is only for a person. What does being have anything to do with past or future? Being is always here. 16. Apart from us, where is time and where is space? If we are the bodies, we will get involved in time and space. Are we bodies? We are one and identical now, then and forever, and also here, there, and everywhere. Therefore, we, the timeless and spaceless, alone are. This reminds me of one paragraph I was reading this morning from this book about Bhagwan's life called The Power of the Presence by David Godman. And the way Bhagwan cuts right through, right through the person. This is, I feel somehow it's linked to this, but I'll just share this with you because it's so wonderful. So basically this is about Sadhu Natananda, and his first meeting, described in his own words, his first meeting with Bhagwan. And we will look at how Bhagwan cuts right through with his penetrating insight. I mean, he's the self, so he sees only the self. So very easily he cuts through the nonsense. So Sadhu Natananda said, on 2nd May 1918, I saw Sri Ramana for the first time at Skandashram on Arunachala. I beseeched him fervently in the following words. It is my great desire that I should actually experience your gracious wisdom. Kindly fulfill my desire. In those days, Sri Ramana was not speaking much. Still, he spoke kindly as follows. Is it the body in front of me that desires to obtain my grace? Or is it the awareness within it? If it is the awareness, is it not now looking upon itself as the body and making this request? If so, let the awareness first of all know its real nature. It will then automatically know God and my grace. The truth of this can be realized even here and now. Is it the body in front of me that desires to obtain my grace? Or is it the awareness within it? If it is the awareness, is it not now looking upon itself as the body and making this request? If so, let the awareness first of all know its real nature. It will then automatically know God and my grace. The truth of this can be realized even here and now. So he cuts straight through. This is first meeting. There's so much power. Yeah. "17. To those who have not realized the self, as well as to those who have, the I refers to the body, but with the difference that for those who have not realized, the I is confined to the body." You see, what he's saying is, even those who have realized the self, the I refers to the body. Okay, but it's not identified with the body. You see, you can use it when you're saying I, you're talking about I. You're not saying I'm talking about. It's not like when I'm having a conversation with my staff in the office, for example. It's not that when I say I am referring to myself as consciousness. This is day to day. This is day to day interaction. So you talk as the body. But what Bhagavan is saying here is that you simply use it for a practical purpose. The I refer, you don't have to make when you talk to someone about something, you don't say, I, consciousness, ask you to get me a glass of water. It just doesn't work like that, you see. So I refers to the body, but the difference is the realized one realizes their actual position, you see. And the I is not confined to the body. So it realizes the reality that the I is not confined to the body. Actually, even in a person that thinks the I is confined to the body, that's just simply a thought. The I is never confined to the body. But the one who realizes what already is. You see, what already is the case is that the I is not confined to the body. So they realize that. But those who don't realize that still take themselves to be the body, take the suffering of the body to be the body, and so it becomes something they carry around rather than an activity that just comes and goes. To those who have not realized the self, as well as to those who have, the I refers to the body, but with the difference that for those who have not realized, the I is confined to the body, whereas for those who have realized the self within the body, the I shines as the limitless self. 18. To those who have not realized the self, as well as to those who have realized, the world is real. To those who have not realized, truth is to the measure of the world. To those that have realized, truth shines as the formless perfection and as the substratum of the world. This is all the difference between them. To those who have not realized, and to those who have realized, the world is real in the sense that it's an appearance, it's there, it's real, but the one who does not realize thinks that that's all there is. Whereas the one who has realized it realizes the one in which the world appears and disappears. 19. Only to those who have no knowledge of the basis of destiny and free will are there the disputations as to which of them prevails. So only to those who have no knowledge of the basis of the destiny and free will are there arguments, disputations as to which of them prevails, destiny or free will. They that know the self as the one basis of destiny and free will are rid of them both. Would they again be entangled in them? Early this morning, I was just watching a YouTube video of Sri Muji, and in there, a devotee was asking him about karma. And then Sri Muji said something along the lines of, get rid of this karma drama. You know, the highest teachings are there. The highest teachings is that when you see what you really are, when you are without you, there is no world, there is no body, there is no anything appearing without this presence, then to whom can the karma apply? Then to whom is this argument valid, whether a free will or destiny? Whose destiny when there is no entity? Whose free will when there's no entity? When it's really seen, then can you ever be entangled in it again? When it's already seen that I don't exist as a person, I don't exist as Sukhbir, as a one that can control and run my life, but I exist as the screen, the light and the screen on which the play of Sukhbir appears, then who can be so engaged with an illusory dream? Once you wake up from a dream, let's say you wake up from a dream, how concerned are you about what happens to the dream character? A lion is chasing you in the dream. You wake up. You're in your bedroom. You look around. You're in your bedroom. How much does it concern you whether the lion ate the guy or not? Most likely it's forgotten. "20. Seeing the divine without seeing the self, the seer, is but seeing a mental image." The divine, in this case, he's talking about an image for a God, for a Lord, for a maybe some divinity form appearing, angel, so forth. So seeing the divine without seeing the self, the seer, is but seeing a mental image. He that sees the self sees the divine, they say. He alone that sees the self, having entirely lost the ego, has found the divine, because the self is not apart from the absolute. 21. What is the truth conveyed by the various scriptures which declare seeing the self is seeing the divine? How can one see the self? If because oneself is but single, seeing is not possible, how to see the divine? It is indeed by oneself becoming a prey unto him. A prey, P-R-E-Y. So it is indeed by oneself becoming a prey unto him. So the only way to see the divine is to be the divine and to lose that identification with that which comes and goes. 22. The divine gives light to the mind and shines in its interior, except by turning the mind inward and fixing it in the divine. How else to know him through the mind? The mind is seen by self. Without the presence, even mind is not something that you can see. Mind is phenomenal, and it is seen by presence. How can that which is an outcome of presence be seen? How can that which is an outcome of presence see the presence? So in a way, the old scriptures that used to talk about this is how will the child know about the birth of the father? You see? How can a child, newborn child that's born, know about the birth of the father? What happened at the birth of the father? It came after. It came after. So because it came after, it cannot know what happened before it. It can't know anything about that. So the mind came out, arose. The mind came out with the mind is seen by presence. It's seen in the light of presence. Okay, so the mind itself cannot know the presence, but when you redirect the attention into the presence, into the heart, and using attention, when you redirect the attention back there, the mind, whatever the mind is, solely dissolves because attention is going away from the mind and into the presence. So as the attention slowly dissolves, then mind is simply something phenomenal. But when the attention is on the self, you don't see mind. And so in this stanza, what they're talking about is the divine gives light to the mind and shines in its interior. So it shines in the interior of the mind, but it gives light to the mind. The mind by itself cannot see anything. Without the presence, there is no mind. So only by turning the mind inward and fixing it in the divine, in that presence itself, from which it came from. How else to know him through the mind? You can't know him any other way. You cannot know him through collecting information with the mind, because even collecting information is something done outwards. Whereas that which is to be recognized is the source of the mind. So the only way to know it is to be it by going inwards and resting in presence as presence. 23. The body does not say I. The body does not say I. None will say that even in deep sleep, the I is not. None will say that even in deep sleep, the I is not. Once the I emerges, all else emerges thereafter. With a keen mind, inquire whence this I emerges. The body does not say I. None will say that even in deep sleep, the I is not. There is no one there to say that even in deep sleep, the I is not. You see, because in what this is talking about, in deep sleep itself, is there someone that says, hey, there is no I. It's only after the fact. It's only after the fact. It's only after the I has come back again in the waking state that it says, hey, deep sleep maybe happened, but during that time, I don't know anything about it because I wasn't there. I mean, there was no I there. But the reflection that there was no I in deep sleep only happens in the waking state. In the deep sleep, it's not being pondered that, hey, there is no I, because only the I does that, you see? So if the I is not there in deep sleep, to know that it's not there in deep sleep, you have to find out, where does this I emerge from then? When does it emerge? How does it come? This is what Bhagavan is asking. 24. This inert body does not say I. Reality consciousness never emerges. In between the two and limited to the measure of the body, something emerges as I. It is this that is known as Chit Jad Granthi, the knot between the conscious Chit and the inert Jada, between what is conscious and what is inanimate. So it is this that is known as the knot between the conscious and the inanimate, bondage, soul, subtle body, ego, samsara, mind, and so forth. 25. Holding a form, it comes into being, and while it holds a form, it endures. Holding a form, it feeds itself and grows big. Giving up one form, it assumes another. When sought, it takes to flight this evil spirit, the ego, which has no form of its own. 26. If the ego is, all else also is. If the ego is not, nothing else is. Verily, the ego is all. Therefore, only the inquiry as to what this ego is the giving up of all. 27. The state of non-emergence of I is the state of our being that. Without questing for that state of the non-emergence of I and attaining it, how can one accomplish one's own extinction, whereafter I revives not? Without that attainment, how is it possible to abide in one's own state where one is that? Let's repeat that. 27. The state of non-emergence of I, the not coming up of I, is the state of our being that. Okay? The state of non-emergence of I is the state of our being that. So that is prior to I. So even when I is not there, that is there, because that is there to know that the I is not there. Without questing for that state of non-emergence of I and attaining it, if you don't go after to see the state without the I, so it means go prior to the I, stay in the I am, see where it arises from. Without this quest, without this search, how can one accomplish one's own extinction so that the I doesn't come back again? Without that attainment, how is it possible to abide in one's own state where one is that? 28. Just as a man would dive in order to get something that has fallen into water, even so one should, with a keen, one-pointed mind, dive into oneself, controlling speech and breath, and find the place whence the I originates. 29. Without uttering the word I, to quest with the mind turned inwards as to whence the I rises is alone the inquiry leading to self-knowledge. Other than this, can contemplation, this I am not, that I am, be by itself the inquiry, though it may be an aid thereto? What this means is to say I am not this, I am not that, verbally, without resting, without basically resting in presence, resting in I am. All the sages have put the emphasis on I am, to remain as I am. Because when you remain as I am, not that you have to expect something happening or whatever, just remain as I am and be. And be in a place where you just are. It's effortless. You don't have to do anything to be. You have to do something to move or whatever, but that which is right now, and your awareness is always there. So what Sri Anantaji always points us to very simply is, he always asks the question, are you aware now? That's it. Can you turn off this awareness? You know, you can't turn off this awareness. So basically, that's the awareness that's being pointed to. So what Bhagavan is saying is that without uttering the word I, because normally people go I, or I am. A lot of people misunderstand and who begin with I am that, or read it without understanding what's being pointed to, without the clear pointings. They get confused and they think that it's something that they have to repeat. In fact, certain schools, they have turned these into Mahavakyas to repeat to themselves over and over again. But the thing is that when you repeat I am that, or I am Brahman, or I am whatever, it's the mind that's repeating it, and there's no belief in it, and there's no that, because the inquiry into who the I is that is Brahman is not looked into. So basically, so that's what Bhagavan is saying. Without uttering the word I, right now, if you don't say I, do you cease to exist? No, you still exist. Without saying I, you still exist. So that is what is being pointed to, that sense of presence that is there before you even say I. Okay, so you don't have to keep on saying I am, I am, I am. It's your repetition of I am, I am, I am is happening in the presence that you are. So that's the presence that's being pointed to. So Bhagavan is saying, basically, to go back to, without uttering the word I, turn your mind inwards to that presence. Be one with that presence. Be in that presence as presence. Okay, and then the other words can be an aid to that practice. So the practice is to be in yourself as that, and then you can see everything that arises as phenomenal. So say, I cannot be that. I cannot be that. Once you're already resting as presence itself, you don't begin the other way around. You begin with presence. Everything begins with presence. So go to the source. And then all of these other ones are aids to the contemplation. They're not substitutes for the contemplation. 30. Questing, who am I within one's mind? When one reaches the heart, the individual I sinks, crestfallen, and at once reality manifests itself spontaneously as I, means the I behind the I. Behind the verbal I, the I behind the entity. You see, because you start off as an entity, you believe in the entity. So what happens is that the belief in the entity is what is holding the idea of a person strongly. So what's happening here is Bhagavan says, when you quest who am I, but you don't keep on saying who am I, who am I, who am I. This is a silent search. This is a silent search. You know you are. Even without saying I, you are present. What is that presence? Rest as that presence. Be there. Now when that is being done, when that is done, then what happens is, as you keep on resting, Bhagavan says, the individual I, which means that the entity, the self, cannot be found. That one drops. And what is there has always been there, the presence. This he calls I. Though it reveals itself thus, it is not the ego I, but the perfect being, the self absolute. 31. For him who is immersed in the bliss of the self, arising from the extinction of the ego, what remains to be accomplished? He is not aware of anything as other than the self. His state, who can conceive? We approach our masters, Sri Anantaji, Sri Mujiji, any of our masters, we approach our masters as though they're people, as though they are an entity. You know, we've turned Sri Muji into an entity. There is a person right there, and that person is Sri Muji. And there is a person right there, and that person is Anantaji. And the fact is that they're not that. They are not that. And when they look at you, they're not looking at you as another person that's coming into their sphere. They are one. Presence, grace itself. There's no difference. It's the one that's living in everyone. The one is speaking through this mouth. The one is hearing at that end. There is no separate person, whatever your name may be. Your forms may be different, but that animating principle, that presence which you can feel right now by looking at, by asking yourself the question, am I present now? And even without verbally saying yes, you know you're present. There is no difference between your presence and my presence. These are just concepts. Your presence, my presence means nothing. Presence is presence. It's the same presence. So Sri Mujiji is presence. Sri Anantaji is presence. Everyone is presence, not just the teachers. Everyone is the one. The one. Not, not everyone is the one, but everyone is simply the same one in everyone. You see, there's only one in the trees, in the dog, in the cat, in the guru. It's the same. It's the same one in you, in me. You know, the mind wants to create something like no, it's only in the guru. It's only in that person there that everyone is listening to. It's only there. The guru themselves tell you this is not the case. You see, the mind likes to prolong the search, likes to turn the guru into a person so that it can continue to be a person. See? I don't know how we got there, but so Guruji, it's your grace. You are speaking. I'm at your feet. I'm just simply sleeping while this is going on. I'm at your feet. You do what you want with this one. You do what you want. The script 32. The scriptures proclaim that thou art. Why not investigate what one really is and abide thus? To simply contemplate that I am, not this, is only want of mental strength. Really, one is eternally that. You don't have to mentally contemplate that. I am that, I am that, I am that. Just keep quiet. Are you aware right now? Can you remove this awareness? Rest is the awareness. And let whatever has to happen, happen. Be the awareness. There's nothing else you have to do. The awareness is the Guru's feet. The awareness is the Guru's grace. The awareness is the Guru's heart. The awareness is the Guru. It alone eternally is. No form persists. "33. I have not realized the self." This is a quote, actually. There's people saying that. The people saying, I have not realized the self, or I have realized the self. To say either is to invite ridicule. Because are there two selves in order that one may objectify the other? That the self is but one is a truth within the experience of all. There is no separate I to realize the self. This journey has been a non-moving journey, has been an imaginary journey. There has always been the self and the idea of an entity. The entity and the story of the entity is just a dream happening within the self. Nothing has ever happened to that self. That I never realizes the self because that I doesn't exist. The self has always been ever realized as itself. No I realizes the self. No person realizes the self. The self is ever realized. The person is seen to be a construction, a concept appearing in awareness. That is what there is to realization. 34. Not to know and abide as that which is for all and forever, the inherent reality in the heart abode, but to be disputing that it is or is not, it has form or is formless, it is non-dual or dual, or it is neither, is merely the evil of illusion born of ignorance. There's nothing to do but to simply abide as that. And all arguments, all disputations, all of that is like happening. Who's doing it? Who's there to say this is non-dual, this is dual, this is this is that, this has form, this doesn't have form? Because all of that appears within that presence. You see, in deep sleep there are no arguments, right? Because that sense of presence is not there. In deep sleep there are no arguments. There are no arguments. Who's there to argue whether this is a non-dual state? The thing is not there. Rest as that awareness which you are. Everything else will be solved. Rest in the Guru's heart. Rest at the Guru's feet. That's it. Rest in grace. And let the play happen. And you simply rest. You simply rest. Simply rest. No argument. It is like this, it is like that. No statements. That's why Bhagavan, Papaji, Sri Moji Ji, Sri Anantaji, all the gurus, all the teachers tell you to keep quiet. That's it. Keep quiet. Don't say anything as a certain finality. The only thing you know at the moment is I am. Rest in that I am. Don't state, don't get into arguments. Don't make any 100% statements about what this is not, how this reflects in your life, what this will show in your life, what this will show up as, what this hasn't, these states, because honestly speaking, whatever you say, you'll have to eat up your words. Because it's endless. How can you make any certain statements about the endless, about the infinite? You know what infinite means? Infinite is not a concept anyone can comprehend. So something which is infinite, what certain statement can you make about something which is infinite? Only finite things have certainty, and that's also for a certain time and place. That which is infinite, what certain thing can you say about it? $34. Oh, okay. Not to know and abide as that which is for all and forever the inherent reality in the heart abode, but to be disputing that it is or is not, it has form or is formless, it is non-dual or dual, or it is neither, is merely the evil of illusion born of ignorance. 35. To seek and abide in the reality that is ever attained is alone the attainment. All other attainments, siddhis, are but such as are acquired in dreams. Can they prove real after one has woken up from sleep? Would they that are established in the reality and are free from Maya be deluded by the siddhis, by the spiritual powers? 36. Only if the thought, we are the body, occurs, will contemplation, we are not this, we are that, be a good aid for us to abide as that. Why should we forever be thinking, we are that, we are that? Is it necessary for a man to go on thinking, I'm a man, I'm a man? Are we not always that? 37. The contention or the teaching or the statement, dualism during practice, non-dualism on attainment, is also not true. While one is anxiously searching, as well as when one has found oneself, who else is one but the 10th man himself? While one is anxiously searching, as well as when one has found oneself, who else is one but the 10th man himself? So the saying dualism during practice, non-dualism on attainment, Bhagavan says is not true because there's never been a dualism. The search for the self has never actually begun. The search for the self cannot ever begin because the self is the basis from which that search will even begin. Already attained. Already here. Already here. The self is already here. The idea that I am going to search for the self by an entity which arises within that self, within the presence of that self, the entity is seen as a phenomena. That phenomena trying to find this never happens. That's always there as it is. So there has never been a dualism. There has never been something attaining something. Bhagavan calls this state the ever-attained state. Once again, the pointing. Are you aware now? Can you turn it off? What remains? 38. If we are the doers of actions, we would also be enjoyers of the fruits thereof. On knowing the self through inquiry as to who the doer is, doership is lost and the triple karma falls off. This alone is the state of eternal liberation. If we are the doers of actions, we would also be the enjoyers of the fruits thereof. On knowing the self through inquiry as to who the doer is, doership is lost and the triple karma falls off. Because who does karma apply to? The triple karma in this case is talking about prarabdha karma, karma from a past vasana. Sinchit karma, prarabdha karma is a karma that has to go big. This is, I'm not explaining it as it is as an actual fact, but as the concept which is being taught. So not as an actual fact, because Bhagavan completely demolishes the concept of karma, because when it's investigated who is doing, who is the doer behind this, right? Then we see that there's no one there for whom karma can apply. So when they say the triple karma is talking about, because they talk about three types of karma in the teachings, not Bhagavan's teachings, in the spiritual teachings, in the scriptures and all that, they talk about three kinds of karma. Maybe these were used before to explain things to people in a very simple way, but it wasn't a direct pointing. But now everyone's caught up in the technicalities of it. But anyways, triple karma means the karma of sinchit karma, which means the karma accumulated, the stored karma, which will be used for next life, prarabdha karma, that which you've brought from a previous life, which you're going to have to use up within this lifetime, and kriyaman, which is the karma you're creating right now. But when it's looked at that there is no doer, then for whom can this triple karma apply? (39) Only so long as one considers oneself, I am bound, do thoughts of bondage and liberation subsist. On inquiring who the bound one is, the self alone subsists, eternally attained and eternally free. Thus, when thought of bondage comes to an end, can thought of liberation survive? Who needs liberation? The one who feels he's bound. Inquire into that one who feels bound and describe in detail what kind of bondage that one is in. And then describe that one who feels he's bound. He or she is bound. Find that one. The answer will become very clear. 40, the last statement in this part. If it is said that liberation is of three kinds, with form or without form, or optionally with and without form, then let me tell you, the extinction of the ego which inquires into the three forms of liberation is alone liberation. If it is said that liberation is of three kinds, with form or without form, or with and without form. Let me tell you, the extinction of the ego, the one which is inquiring into the three forms of liberation. Because again, liberation is only a concept for the one identified with bondage. When that one is looked into, neither the bondage nor the one who feels is bound can be found. What remains was always there. Remove the inquirer into the three kinds of liberation, and that alone is liberation. And liberation is already attained. This is the grace. This is the grace. All of this is by the grace. This space is by the grace of Sri Mujiji, Sri Nantaji. I bow down to the feet of grace. I bow down to the feet of grace. I bow down to the presence, the one. Satguru Sri Mujiji ki jai, Sri Anantaji ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Thank you.